And I think of leaning into being, it comes back to that acceptance, right? That self-acceptance of where am I today? And that's okay, that it doesn't have to show up as perfect. I just have to show up, and it sounds so cliche.
I'm Erica.
And I'm Amory. This is Leaning Into Being,
the podcast for mamas who know that real strength isn't just in doing, but in being.
Be you.
Be present.
Just be.
Amory, I'm so excited about today's Leaning Into Being podcast guest, Hilary Phelps, who is a dear friend. She is an advocate, speaker, coach, and all-around incredible woman who has inspired many all across the globe.
I'm so excited to talk to her. Her story is so riveting. She was the nation's fastest swimmer at age 14, and she's overcome so much. She overcame addiction. She's been sober for 17 years. And every time I connect with her and talk with her, she has so many heartfelt and thoughtful insights into her journey and her recovery. So I can't wait to talk to her.
And I'm super excited to hear all about her emphasis on the importance of nurturing emotional, spiritual, physical, and mental wellness, as well as what's going on in her role as motherhood with her and her son, Alexander.
Let's get started.
Hilary, we are so excited to have you on our podcast, Leaning Into Being, today. We always like to start off our episodes centering ourselves on our shared experiences of motherhood. Where are you in your journey in life and in motherhood?
Oh my gosh, all of a sudden all this emotion came up. Literally, my son is 7, so he's in first grade. That's where I am as far as like literal timeline of motherhood. I feel like I'm just coming into the stage though of being enough, right? And what I mean by that is for a really long time, it was like, well, I'm not doing enough for him, or I'm not reading enough or teaching enough or doing enough. And now I'm like, where I am is okay. But it feels like it took 7 years to get there.
Oh my gosh, that's a huge milestone to get to. I feel like some days I'm not even there. The space of being enough for wherever you are and whatever you're doing. Congratulations, because that's a really big thing to hit, especially as a mom.
Thank you. I mean, that's today, right? Tomorrow it could be different. To be fair.
True. We talk about there's so much pressure on moms to do it all and to have it all. What do you think about that? And how does that idea play into your personal narrative?
So again, I think it depends on the day. And it all comes back to, I've done a lot of work on myself. Like we'll probably talk about, like I'm sober and I do a lot of inner work and self-reflection. And so the days that I feel really good, I feel okay with the juggle, meaning like I don't have to have it all and that's okay. And when it comes down to it, my son is at the center of all of that. And so if I have to sacrifice, for example, tonight a friend's having a birthday party, but my son has 2 homes. Right. And so I said, I'm so sorry, I can't come because that's my time with him. And that's the most important. But I think that balance is really hard because there are times when like self-care is really important and sleep is really important. And if I don't get those things, I don't show up well for him. And so something I've learned over this last year that's really important that helps with this is like, how do I feel about it? Like, where am I in this space? So whether it's saying no to a dinner or going to bed early with my son, whatever it is, like, how do I feel about it versus like, how is he feeling about it? Or how is someone else going to feel about me not showing up? Or how is something else? And so coming back to my own needs has been really important in that quote, having it all. Because when my needs are met or when I'm okay with something, then I feel okay with having it all. Just means that I'm in a good place physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. So then I can be there for other people, most importantly, my son.
It's so important. I want to touch on your sobriety. You're 18 years sober. Have that right?
17 and a half, almost
17
18.
and a half,
17,
almost there.
Yeah.
17 and a half, but still a huge milestone. I've had the privilege of hearing you talk about your sobriety journey on a number of different panels. Can you share with our audience that journey for you and your personal story of how you redefined your success to where you are today?
It's such a great question. Sobriety is such a personal thing. It's such a personal journey. And so I got sober in 2007. I was 29 years old. And sobriety and mental health wasn't as talked about it as it is today. And so when I got sober, I didn't know anybody else that wasn't drinking. I didn't know anybody else that was sober. I didn't know anyone else that had gone to rehab. I didn't know anybody. And so for me, I really stepped into that space completely on my own. And I checked myself into treatment. I'll give the short version. That I was a blackout drinker and I was just drinking wine. And so I thought that if I was drinking wine, I wasn't the image then that's portrayed on the media was like Meg Ryan in When a Man Loves a Woman, sneaking vodka, falling through shower doors. And I wasn't quite like that. I was blacking out. I didn't remember what happened the night before. Flip phones are still a thing. So social media and like this age of taking photos all the time, it wasn't a thing. And I had enough. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired all the time. And so for me, the shame of hiding it, living this secret double life almost felt too much to carry. And so I checked myself into rehab, and recovery is a huge part. 12 steps were a huge part of my recovery. And I started to find a different community, but I didn't talk about it because I was embarrassed. There was still a huge shame component. And fast forward 15 years in 2022, when the numbers of female drinking was on the rise, the increase in women drinking at home with young children was 300% during COVID. Women, the deaths among women because of alcoholism and alcohol-related diseases were catching up to men for the first time in 70 years. And so these numbers started to feel really scary and real. And so what I realized was that if I could share my story and one woman could hear her story in mine and get the help that she needed, then that was enough. Because this ripple effect, whether you're sober, whether you're a mentally well mom, like whatever that is, the ripple effects that we carry in society and carry in our homes, and for me, most importantly, with our children is so important. And so that, again, that ripple effect going out, if I could impact the life of one woman. And what I realized was that it completely changed my professional life, my personal life. It really, and what it told me was that conversation was necessary.
It's really quite amazing how in the past few years, sobriety has really spread. And you're talking about the ripple effect. And for so many different reasons. I'm sober actually because of my health. And you see that happening. And there are women who are becoming sober curious and who have decided to become sober, not necessarily because they're addicts, but because of the benefits and because of so many other things that are a part of their lives. So it must be just a world away from the space that you are in back in, did you say 2007, when you're coming out of recovery and you are all alone there. How has the sober community really grown and come to support women like you and women who are getting sober today?
That's a great question. It's such an emotional topic, and sometimes I just move through my day and I forget. And I forget because there's such a spectrum of recovery or not drinking, right? There's someone like me who considered it a disease, addiction, substance use disorder. It was not possible for me to stop on my own. And that to somebody that doesn't really understand it, it's hard to understand. My son asks me, because I talk very in small bits at 7-year-old, understanding what it was like, because I want him to know from an early age that this is a genetic disease and that it's possible. But to explain it to someone that doesn't understand, it's like the closest thing I could see was there was a meme on social and it said, for those that don't understand addiction, imagine every time you go to reach for your phone, that's how an addict is with a drink or a drug. And you don't realize it and you do it and you mindlessly, it's the same thing. It's a mental, physical, emotional craving. And what is so beautiful to see now is that there's this spectrum of sober and sober curious. There's someone like me that identifies as an addict with substance use disorder. And what is most important to me now is that it's being defined as a disease and it's not a willpower thing, because that was not an option. It's not like me giving up sugar or working out every day for a week. It was something that's really sick. And there was so much attention, rightfully, to cancer and diabetes and heart disease and all of these things. And for me, it's really hopeful to see that addiction is now being called a disease, because it really is. It's a brain disease. But what I love now about the spectrum of it is there's gray area drinking. Amory, there's people that, like you described, it's not serving me from a health standpoint, so I'm not going to drink. And everything is acceptable, or it's more acceptable than it was. And that's what I like. Because at the end of the day, whether it's not drinking or and not eating sugar or deciding to, I don't know, live your life a certain way, or it's that about allowing people to be who they are, and the acceptance of people where they are is such a beautiful thing. And I think with sobriety, it's really given people the chance to explore whatever that looks like for them. Sober, curious, gray area drinking, addiction recovery. And I love that it's so widely accepted where it wasn't 17 years ago.
Part of what I wanted to ask about, and I don't think I really reiterated this into the question, is that even for me, as someone who's not an addict, I find there's instances where I feel like a little awkward or uncomfortable, where everybody has a drink and you walk in and they're like, okay, what can I get you to drink? Or you sit down and everyone orders drinks at the table. I'm like, can I have a tea? And what was that like for you? And how do you deal with that?
So in the beginning, I just didn't go out. Like I wouldn't go out with people that weren't drinking 17 years ago. And then there are kind of these tools that I would learn from other women, like always carry sparkling water with a lime and never let somebody else offer you a drink in a cocktail party, because then always have it full, always get your own. Because if someone else asks you, then you have to maybe answer that uncomfortable question of, oh, I'm just drinking sparkling water. And then people, are you pregnant? Are you sick? Or it's none of your business. But people don't seem to mind asking those really personal questions. Now, I think after doing it for 17 years, you can think what you want. I know for me. And then there are the funny things, like if I have a drink, I'll break out in handcuffs, or people will say these really funny remarks that kind of put people on their heels. And they're like, I don't understand that. It's not pretty. But I think for a while, it was really that self-acceptance that came first, like accepting that this is where I am. And then it didn't really matter what anybody else thought. But that took a lot of time and a lot of practice. And I think having a community of other people, whether it's just friends that support your goals, whether it's not drinking or working out or eating healthy, or like whatever that is, but having that community of people that support you is so important to fall back on.
So true. And I love that self-acceptance. Like we have to do a lot to give ourselves grace and accept who we are and where we are in the seasons that we are in. Hilary, one of the things that I love so much about you is your nurturing just demeanor. You're so warm and welcoming, and you focus a lot on holistic health and the 4 bodies of wellness, nurturing emotional, spiritual, physical, and mental wellness. How are these 4 interconnected? Why is it critical for us as women, as mothers, to continue to understand these 4 bodies of wellness during life in general and through transitions?
I love all of your questions. I've been on several podcasts before, and these are all different than ones I haven't had before. And so I appreciate them. And I think my belief is that we have these 4 bodies: emotional, spiritual, mental, and physical, and they make up who we are. Same thing as being a mom. We're a woman first. We're a mom. We're a partner. We're in their professional space. Like we have all of these things that make up who we are. And we go back to that balance question, right? If my physical body is out of balance, sometimes that looks like my spiritual body will be out of whack. And what I mean by that is maybe I'm short-tempered, or maybe I'm irritable. And so having a good balance of all of those, I think, really makes us this whole person. And so if I lean too heavily on one, then everything else. And it's not about being perfectly aligned or in balance, but for me, I found it's bringing attention to all of those things. I was a Division I scholarship record holder swimmer and an Ironman and all of these things. I don't have to do that anymore to keep my physical body in balance, but I do have to move it. So this morning I did 20 minutes on the Peloton. I did 20 minutes of meditation, and it doesn't have to be so all encompassing, but I just every day bring a little bit of balance to each one of those bodies to keep my whole person, in balance.
Hi, it's Erica and Amory from Leaning Into Being, and we know growing a tiny human is no small feat.
Which is why we've partnered with our friends at Motherhood Maternity, because every mama deserves to feel held, seen, and yes, comfy.
From belly to baby and beyond, their pieces move with you so you can focus on what matters most, being present.
You can shop their latest looks at Kohl's, Kohls.com, Amazon, Babies R Us Canada, and motherhood.com.
Be you.
Be present.
Just be.
Erica, how hard is it to create content while running a company?
Let's be real, Amory, it's really hard. You've got the ideas, but turning them into consistent strategic content, that's a whole other job.
Enter the Content Catalyst from Share Your Genius. In just one 90-minute session, they help you turn your ideas into 3 months of high-impact content, videos, articles, social posts, and more.
We use them, we love them, and this is your sign to finally get your content off the vision board. Reach out and tell them we sent you.
And can you share how, I'm sure it's different by day, but what are your non-negotiables to make sure that happens?
So my non-negotiables, for me, it's emotional. Like my emotional well-being tops everything. And what I mean by that is, I'm going to try to give a succinct answer. I can create stories, right? And so if something's not going my way, I can create a story about why that is. It's because this and this. It's because that person doesn't like me, or it's because I'm not successful, or I made a bad, whatever it is. And so if I can bring myself into emotional regulation and emotional well-being every day, then everything else for me falls into place. So my non-negotiables are, I do nervous system regulation and check in multiple times a day. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying. It's what do I need in this moment, or how am I feeling? And 9 times out of 10, that sets me up for a pretty decent, because it brings it back to that acceptance. It brings it back to self. It brings it back to control the things I can control. Meditation, I try to do 2 20-minute meditations a day. It doesn't always. I did Vedic meditation, which is sitting in silence with a mantra. And it helps me quiet my mind and just tap into my body. And meditation, emotional nervous system regulation, and sleep and water. Those are like the non-negotiables. If I don't get sleep, I'm not very fun to be around. And so for me, that means 8 hours of pretty solid sleep. If I don't get it, I try to lay down for a 30-minute nap at some point during the day, and water. And if I can get those things in line, everything else is gravy. I do try to move my body at least 15 minutes a day. In a perfect day, it's 45 minutes. But those are my...
So the title of our podcast is Leaning Into Being. So we always like to ask, what does leaning into being mean to you? What is your place of being? And how do you find that space for yourself within motherhood and beyond?
And I think of leaning into being, it comes back to that acceptance, right? That self-acceptance of where am I today? And that's okay, that it doesn't have to show up as perfect. I just have to show up, and it sounds so cliche, but the best version of myself. And today that version could be better based on what I do, or the things I think, or the behaviors that I'm amplifying or suppressing. But I think it all comes back to that self-acceptance on any given day. And again, for motherhood, for me, I'm a knowledge seeker, right? I was a straight A student. I was all of these things. I'm a type A. I do. And so for me, it comes back into that being. There are some things I don't have to do all the time. I don't have to do more to be better. I just have to be more to do better. That makes sense. It made sense in my
No, I love it.
I think it's this flow, right? Like for culture tells us we have to be a certain way. Our family tells us, society, everything. To be a woman, you have to be X, Y, and Z. To be successful, you have to be this. To be a mom, you have to be this. But leaning into being means leaning into being who I am. And on any given day, that can look different. But as long as I'm okay with that, knowing that every day is not going to be my best day, knowing that every day that there might be a time. There was one afternoon or evening recently, a couple months ago, my son was just like, and we've all been there, right? He's energetic. He's a lot. He's tired. He's all this. And I was like, I'm going to lose my effing mind if we don't get in the bath right now. And he stopped and looked at me and was like, who talks to their child that way? And I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. You were 100% right. I shouldn't talk to anybody that way, let alone my child. And I'm so sorry. And I took it as a moment to but in that moment, I felt terrible. The next day, I felt terrible. And that amends that I can make to him is never doing it again, accepting that it was a moment in time, taking responsibility for what I did and saying I'm sorry, which also shows him that I'm not perfect. He's not perfect. We can own our stuff and still move on. And then the acknowledgement that tomorrow's going to be better. And I think that's the leaning into being, like leaning into knowing that every moment as it comes is okay, knowing that we can make a change in the next one if we want to be better. But it's just okay to be.
It's so true. I always say that we always have this box, right? You have to fit in this box, and that's not necessarily true because that box is archaic, right? And especially for moms and women, like you said, and we have to be able to accept where we are and be okay with it and give ourselves grace, and also recognize, like you said, that sometimes we're just going through those seasons or we're having a bad day, if that's the season. Or my win is getting the kids in the car and getting them to school on time. And that's good enough for the day, and appreciate that. Hilary, you have inspired so many women all across the globe. What advice or tip would you give to women who are balancing the demands of motherhood, potentially experiencing personal growth or navigating what that might look like, and maybe even navigating recovery?
Yeah. So I think one of the most important things, and I've said this, and it comes back to what do I need? And so one of my favorite tools, I work with a lot of women in, whether it's finding their voice, their purpose, getting sober, navigating a divorce, right? These challenges and transitions that we all have in life. Coming back to self. And what does that look like? What does that look like is just putting your hand on your heart, acknowledging you, like who you are physically, like physically touching, and then saying, what do I need in this moment? Anybody can do this at any point in the day. You can do it in the bathroom. You can do it in a car pickup line. You can do it, before you get out of bed in the morning. Like, what do I need? Right? And sometimes for me, that I burst into tears because I didn't realize how much I've been holding, right? Because I think we just keep going. And so I just cry, and that emotional release and that nervous system detox and just wringing it out feels so good. And I just let it be. Right? Or maybe I need to, go hug my partner because I'm just feeling really lonely. Maybe I need to call my mom. Maybe there's something, but something will come up. And in my experience and the women I've worked with, if we give ourselves enough time, and sometimes it's a little bit, to let that inner voice come out, we will be guided and steered based on our intuition. And for so long, I think we shut down that intuition because of that box we're supposed to be in. I say in air quotes, we're supposed to be. This is what a successful woman looks like. This is what a successful mom looks like. This is what we're told we're supposed to be by, again, institutions, college, education, people, culture, society. All of these things tell us who we're supposed to be. But if we can just get quiet in that 1 minute and ask ourselves, what is it that we need? We can start to hear our own inner voice and guidance on who we are who we want to be. And that is never wrong. And so getting silent or getting a little bit quiet and just starting to tap into that inner wisdom is so powerful and so good. 2 is accountability, right? Accountability or community. Like that is so beautiful to get another voice, right? Have somebody else say, no, I feel the same way. When I had that moment with my son, when I was like, I'm going to lose my mind, I felt so guilty. But I talked to another mom. I've had those moments too. And you're like, okay. So being able to have a community where you can use your voice and share you don't feel alone, because when we're alone is when we start making up those stories about what it means, right? So having a community of other women who see us exactly as we are and love us for who we are is so important. And then accountability, right? Having somebody else in your corner, whether it's a coach, a therapist, a friend. I joke and say I have this board of directors, a handful of women that I can go to with something, and they call me on my BS. Which is good too. Like you want someone that, lovingly will call you on your stuff, because we can all co-sign whatever it is in our head that we want it to be or we think it should be. And so having somebody to just bounce those off of is something that in my 17 years of sobriety has been the most valuable thing.
We could talk to you literally all day, but we're coming up to the end of our time. And we have one question that we always like to ask at the end. What is one time or moment that you're still laughing about, or you can't believe that you made it through?
There's so many, but I would say, honestly, I think in this moment, right? And I say that because of this. Because 17 years ago, when someone told me to go a weekend without drinking, I thought it was impossible. I didn't think I could do it. I didn't think I could go a day. And so the fact that I've stacked day on day, an hour onto that and gotten to this moment, I'm still in shock that it's been 17 years since I've had a drink or a drug to change the way I feel. That one. And the biggest gift is that my son hasn't seen me have a drink or a drug to change the way I feel his entire life. And that's a gift. And I'll never know the impact that has on him, which is so wonderful. But I think it's all of the hard moments too. I think back to the Ironman. I finished an Ironman in 14 hours in Lake Placid, and I just randomly signed up for it. And I was like, why not? This will be fun. And I got through it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I think all of those moments, you think, how am I going to get through this? And it's literally that ridiculous phrase. It's like, how do you eat an elephant? one bite at a time. And it's like any challenge in life. It's just doing it day in and day out, taking it one bite at a time, one day at a time, one step at a time. And I think oftentimes when we do that, we look back, we are amazed at how strong we are as women and moms and business owners and friends and daughters. Yeah.
That is so incredible. What a way to end our podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. Our first podcast of 2025 with Hilary Phelps.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies, for having me. This was wonderful.
Mama, you are doing enough. You are enough.
So take a breath, lean in, and just be.
Be you.
Be present.
Just be.